We are live.
All right.
Let's see. Oh, there it is. It is slowly coming up. Great. So, hi everybody. This is Jacqueline Luqman.
And coming back from the other side of town is Abdul Shahid Lukman.
And this is Live in Luqman Nation. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Usually we have, our wonderful intro video, but we're on a food and Band-Aid budget over here. So we are just connected, and we just might as well get right down to it. We're really, really proud today to be able to talk to Dr. Jason Nichols, who is a professor of African American Studies at the University of Maryland. And we wanted to talk to him today because of the article that he wrote for the Hill magazine. And it was about Betsy DeVos, who doesn't have any qualifications, she isn't a doctor of anything. Somehow she just, through her privilege, ended up being the secretary of the head of the Department of Education. And she was invited to speak at Bethune-Cookman University, which is an historically Black college or university. And there's huge controversy about that. So I'm going to cede the floor to Dr. Nichols to talk about why his perspective on Betsy DeVos's being invited to speak at BCU was such a problem. So Dr. Nichols, thank you for joining us. And what do you have to say about that shenanigan?
First of all, thank you to the Luqman family for inviting me. Honestly, I want to be clear in that I didn't have a problem with her speaking. Of course, we could talk about her being Secretary of Education and, more importantly, not being a doctor of anything. That's time in the classroom. So she doesn't really connect with teachers and other people for whom she's making policy. The DeVos's are worth about $5 billion. Her policies were implemented in Michigan, in her home state of Michigan, and it's done nothing but fail all over for lots of kids, including large numbers of African American kids in the city of Detroit. Privatization of schools has been really problematic. But more importantly, I still, with all of that and with a record of failure, the fact is she is the Secretary of Education. She was confirmed by the, the Congress. So I believe she had the opportunity, she should be given the opportunity to speak. I'm one of the people that really firmly believes in the First Amendment. I hope we didn't freeze there.
You guys. Yeah, your video is
frozen. We're not freezing, but I'm going to continue like we're not. My problem wasn't that. The big problem that I had was the fact that she is incapable, or the fact that she was invited and then the president of the university made this unilateral decision when the community on their day rejected it. They said they didn't want her, and the president made a decision to have her come anyway and made lots of excuses. I don't necessarily think that, children, that graduates should necessarily pick the graduation speaker. But if they almost universally reject the graduation speaker, then that person shouldn't come. And the example that I always give is having Minister Farrakhan go to Oral Roberts or Minister Farrakhan go and speak at Liberty University. Does he have the right to do so? Absolutely, if he's been invited. Right. Now, should he come for commencement, and commencement being a special event for graduates and families.
Mm-hmm.
He should not be invited. He should not go. Particularly if the university community rejects him.
So,
And I hope we're still on.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're still on.
on.
We can see you
Can
now.
you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
and we can hear you too. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So, can you hear us? Uh-oh. Are we having connection issues there? We can see you.
Let me try and chat here.
Professor Nichols, can you hear us? Hold on, you guys. I think we're having a couple of technical issues here, and we are still connected, but I think he's having a difficult time hearing us.
Right.
Okay. Do we have you back? Okay. Can you hear us?
Well, I'm hoping you can hear me.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
I think he's having a problem hearing us. Can you hear us?
Not sure what to do.
Uh-oh. I don't know what's going on with the audio right now. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, well, the chat works, so let me get in the
I
chat.
guess I'll sign back on.
We're going to try to communicate through the chat.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We've got the chat up, so we're going to try to communicate through the chat. So this is the question I want to ask. What do you mean when you say that the BCU community, the Bethune-Cookman
Right.
University community, didn't want DeVos to speak? I just typed that question in, guys, and he's going to be able to read it and respond.
So, as far as the BCU community not wanting her to speak, first of all, as I said with Tucker Carlson, we saw the reaction of the students. We saw the alumni created a petition to keep her from speaking that got signed by 60,000 people. And of course, people can say, well, some people outside of the BCU community complained, but people within the community were pretty vocal about their complaints, which caused the president of the university to actually react. He's the person who wrote an op-ed defending his choice to his community. I don't think he was talking to you or talking to me or talking to anybody who was outside of that community. He was talking particularly to the people within the community, the faculty, the staff, the students, and even former faculty, staff, students, and alumni. And he made it clear what his purpose was. He said, either you are at the table or you're on the menu. So obviously he had some fear of the Trump administration. And he was kind of like, as we say in hip hop, it was kind of a get down or lay down type of thing. He realized that the Trump administration had meaningless photo ops with presidents of universities. They have not made any firm commitments to HBCUs, even though they use this as their main platform to say, hey, we don't, have problems with Black people. While they put other policies like war on drugs policies and other archaic policies in place, they say, hey, but look what we do for HBCUs. But they haven't done anything. So this guy, President Jackson recognized this, and that's why he, made this whole thing happen, trying to make good with this administration. And as I said about him, I have no real issue with him. I think he made the wrong decision for all the right reasons. He wanted to secure something for his community, but he took the wrong route and used the wrong venue. I think there's a time that Betsy DeVos could have come and spoken on that campus. And the students could have protested and all of that, but it was a bad time to bring her at commencement when the focus should be on the students and, you know, celebrating their desires and their accomplishments.
Mm-hmm. So the next question that I hope you can answer is, what did he think? What did the president of the university think? Having her speak would benefit.
I think it was more about funding, both private and public.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a little bit of speculation, but like we said, you know, BCU is a campus that has about 4,000 students, and it has a humble endowment of about $54 million. Now, as we said before, the DeVos family is worth $5 billion, and they fancy themselves as education benefactors. So we can put two and two together that perhaps he was trying to get private funding, and also this is the most powerful education official in the country. Basically, you know, she puts education budgets, you know, on the chopping block, mainly public education, but also for state-funded and you know, publicly funded universities. So I mean, he was trying to get in good, and you know, that's why he made this decision to invite her, when in fact she has nothing to do with the school's mission. She is very different from the school's namesake, you know, Mary McLeod Bethune, who started a school not with $5 billion, but started one with $1.50, who actually went out and taught in the classroom. And although she worked with government as well, her main focus was that she was an educator. That's not what Ms. DeVos is. Ms. DeVos is a billionaire. So he thought that this would be good for the university, and I can understand why he would think that. And he even said in his op-ed, imagine the doors that this is going to open. And I think part of that is understanding that the Trump administration was not opening doors willingly for African Americans and Latinos and other people of color. You know, I think that that's what they thought. You know, he thought, hey, I'm trying to gain something. I'm trying to gain funding for my university.
Okay, so this is the next question, you guys, that I'm sending to Dr. Nichols.
So I think the students did, you know, as I said, you know, Betsy DeVos, Secretary DeVos, has her right to free speech. At the same time, the students have their right to protest. It should not have happened at commencement. I really believe that the president of the university forced the students' hand, and the students reacted the way they thought they should, which was a protest. And, you know, when students, and this is something that we're learning at the University of Maryland, when administration does not listen to students, students will protest. It goes back to the Vietnam era, it goes back even before that, civil rights. Students are going to protest when they see things that they don't agree with, and they feel like they have no voice. The president of the university, President Jackson, took the students' voice away, and they protested. And of course, there was a loud chorus of boos. There was, the president had to get on the microphone and antagonize the students more. Ms. DeVos gets shouted down. And I think that younger children watching that didn't look at graduation the way I did as a child and other people. When I can remember when I went and visited the graduation of one of my cousins at Howard University, and I had to be about 7 or 8 years old. And I was like, man, I can't wait to have this day for myself. Some student that, or some young person, 8 or 9 years old that was in that audience, was not looking at that and saying, you know, I want that day for myself. You know, they saw that, and they saw a whole lot of issues and problems. And they saw a faculty and administration that seemingly was in disaccord with the student body. And I think that that really, you know, it has a, you know, deleterious effect for a lot of these kids who, as I said in the interview with Tucker Carlson, about 850 to 900 students at BCU get federal grants, which means essentially that they're poor. So you have their younger siblings who are poor, who, you know, we know poor kids are less likely to get higher education, particularly poor African-American kids. And this was an opportunity to tell them, this is what you want out of life. And this is the day that you will be celebrated. I'm sure you all saw that video of graduation in South Africa, and the whole community is celebrating them.
Yeah.
And instead, they saw a whole lot of an antagonistic, problems instead. And that was, I thought, really problematic. And I think that falls upon the shoulders of President Jackson.
That's really good. So, okay, here's the next question, and I'm posting it, you guys.
So, of course, we've had a lot of incidents going back for a while. The firing of Cordell Black, who was our dean of multiculturalism, because the provost didn't get along with him. That caused a big stir with the students because he was very popular and beloved. We've had nooses hung on campus recently. And in addition, we've seen throughout the DC area. And of course, most recently, we've had the murder of Second Lieutenant Richard Collins III by a kid who may have had some white supremacist leanings and beliefs. So I think the students have been really, really active and really energized around these causes. And again, they tried to be proactive. They went to President Lowe, and I don't want to say anything too bad about my employer.
Right.
Apparently, he was not as receptive, or at least proactive with a lot of their recommendations, and they have taken to the streets, or at least the campus streets, and made it very uncomfortable for President Lowe, and our community has been in a little bit of turmoil since then. And I think a lot of them are like, look, you waited until someone had to die before you went out and paid attention to what it is we were saying about multiculturalism and about inclusion.
Right. Wow. That's the. Can you hear us yet? Okay, he's still having a problem hearing us. So I just posted the next question, and I'm posting it for you guys.
Oh, absolutely. There are deeper implications for DeVos platform
Did it cut up there?
on education for the future of Black students. As I was saying, before, I started getting yelled at on Fox News, was the DeVos budget plans to cut $4 billion from Pell Grants. And as I said, about 850 students, 850 to 900 students at Bethune-Cookman in particular, receive federal grants. So you're basically taking their opportunities to get a college education away. And we know that, a college graduate, of course, makes $1 million more than a non-college graduate throughout their lives. So you can think, what is that, like $50,000 a year for 20 years extra that someone who is a college graduate is making. Of course, it's a little bit different for African-American college graduates, but if you don't graduate college, as an African-American, you're really going to struggle in most cases. So as I see my son, who one day will graduate from college, but we've also seen that privatizing public education, like was done in Detroit, has had a terrible effect. And some people will argue that, privatizing education has worked in some cases. I would disagree with that, because we know that charter schools a lot of times cook the books. And what I mean by that is they have the freedom to expel problem students. So that obviously rises their test scores.
Mm-hmm.
While public schools have the burden of, look, we are going to educate you until you decide you don't want to be educated anymore. The other thing is that there's a study out of Berkeley, California, that says that charter schools do not outperform public schools at all. And that's even after they've cooked the books and kicked out what they call problem students. So if you're not getting the results and could potentially be getting worse results, and we also have to remember that the Constitution to the United States of America does not guarantee public education. There's no amendment to the Constitution that says you are guaranteed an education. So I think with someone like Betsy DeVos, that makes things very dangerous for Black students, for other poor students, even poor white students, but certainly for African-American students, that she could potentially be a force that takes away their right to an education. That you're going to see kids getting expelled from schools or kicked out for whatever reason, and they're not going to get the proper education and have the proper life opportunities.
Okay, cool. So
as far as, I don't know if your audience can hear, but I will say privatization is definitely a pillar of a neoliberal platform, and it's just another form of class warfare against the poor. And I think that this is why the Pell Grants are important. This is why, public education is important. I'm not against all charters. I want to be clear about that. I actually worked with a charter school in Baltimore that was in the Park Heights area. And they got, in some cases, they were actually getting better results than the public school. So I'm not blanket against all privatization, or against all charters, I will say. But the idea of essentially getting rid of public education, which is what Betsy DeVos wants to do, I think is really dangerous.
Uh-oh. Long question.
Well, let me tell you, one of the things that I learned from the Bush administration.
Going back to Bush.
You can preach inclusion and practice division.
Wow.
And, there's an old thing called window dressing. Now, what we know about the Trump administration is they don't even dress the window. The Bush administration, when he went up at that podium, he had Condoleezza Rice and he had Colin Powell flanking him. The Trump administration is the least diverse cabinet in the history, or at least in the last 40 years since the Reagan administration. And I think we can all agree that our country has become a lot more diverse since the Reagan administration. And I think what we're seeing is, replacing people who really have knowledge, people who are really invested, people who live these issues, like, activists and academics and policymakers, they replaced with Steve Harvey. And now, nothing against Steve Harvey. As a matter of fact, I have gratitude towards Steve Harvey because when my mother was in a rehab center before she passed, we watched Family Feud every day, and we loved it. So nothing against Steve Harvey, but he is not the person that I think, the primary person that the President of the United States should be meeting with in order to address some of the issues that our country and challenges that our country has, particularly with people of color. Meeting with Steve Harvey, meeting with Ray Lewis, who, Ray Lewis, I think, again, I'm from the Baltimore area, so I love Ray Lewis. You got to love Ray, but he's not the guy that I would talk to about anything other than football, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he can do his philanthropy, but he should not be somebody that you turn to when you have real issues in mind. So I think what they were doing was just, I think it was almost insulting to African Americans. It's like, hey, these are the people you like. You like celebrities.
Right.
We're going to show you a couple celebrities that like us,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, that will pacify you. And I think that particularly after seeing, maybe that would have worked in the 80s, but after seeing an African American president, an African American attorney general, African American secretary to the UN,
Mm-hmm.
we, you know, expect full inclusion
Mm-hmm.
in this country, and we've been arguing for it for a long time. But I think now there's a real expectation for it, and instead we've been met with meaningless photo ops, as you stated,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, meetings with, you know, if you want to call them preachers, you know, hey. That's not what I would call those guys. Like, you know, I'm trying to think of the guy. He looks like Brian Pumper. I'm trying to think of his name. Or the other, there was another guy who I actually interviewed from South Carolina, who was a big Trump supporter, and it turns out he was lying about all his degrees.
Oh, yeah. I remember
website.
that. Right. Yeah.
If you want to call those guys preachers, fine. But, you know, they're
But
preaching
let's
something. I
not,
don't know if
though.
they're preaching about, you know,
No.
Jesus, but they're preaching something.
They're not preaching
And I think that
Jesus.
they are, you know, trying to further their opportunities by getting in and getting whatever scraps fall off the table, you know,
Mm-hmm.
from the Trump administration. But I think that this Trump administration, one thing I can say is that this has, I think, motivated a lot more people. A lot more people are engaged in politics and in the realities of what's going on. And it's not just, they're not just concerned. Our people aren't just concerned with African American issues anymore. They want to know about Russia.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they want to know about Africa.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as
Mm-hmm.
you know, something that I pointed out, you know, with the terror attack in London, there were 32 people killed since January 2nd, since June 2nd,
Right.
in Africa,
Right.
from
Right.
extremist groups. But
Mm-hmm.
this
Right. From
administration
Boko
has not
Haram.
mentioned them. Why? Because 32 lives are not as important as 7 lives, or any life
Mm-hmm.
that comes out of Europe, Western Europe, or the, you know, or white people in the United States.
Mm-hmm. All right. Here's the next question, you
So I
guys.
think what it means is we have to fight harder, and we have to go out and vote. We have to go out and put up our candidates. That's what we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good interview. I just want to keep my half hour.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had two more questions. And I think he's reading through that long question that I just stuck up there.
I guess I'll continue. I think the realities for African American politics is we have to first focus on our local politics, because while everybody is thinking about Donald Trump right now, Texas, for example, I just got back from Houston last night, and Texas canceled MOC. Texas canceled MOC, which
that's weird.
No, I can't see the chat.
All right, let's see what we can do here. Maybe it's too long.
Last thing I saw was the meaningless photo op.
Okay, there we go. It was too long.
There we go.
My thought was too long, and I typed too much, guys. So.
I will be honest about the Bill Maher thing. I'm not a huge fan of Bill Maher.
Neither are we.
And I think he is racist in the way that many progressive whites are racist. And he's not even a progressive. One thing I respect about Bill Maher is that he has his own ideas.
Right.
He is, like he said, he's pro-death across the board. He's pro-death penalty. He's he's pro-choice.
Bill Maher
has his own ideas, so I wouldn't necessarily even call him a progressive. The slavery joke, my problem with the joke that he made about being a house nigger wasn't the fact. I think people are missing the point. It's not about the fact that he said nigger. I'm one of those people where I'm not tripping on. I don't like it when white people say it. I think only black people should say it. But I wasn't really tripping about him saying nigger. My issue was making a slavery joke.
And
making it seem like slavery is something we can joke about. You will never, ever hear a non-Jew, make a joke about the Holocaust. Why? Because it's not funny. People died, and so my issue was more about that, about making a joke about slavery. And I'm not sure that, a lot of jokes about slavery are funny when they come from African Americans, other than the fact that we are dealing with a long-standing pain. And I think, therefore we can make jokes about it. But I've heard, jokes from African Americans about slavery I didn't think were funny. But you'll never hear a non-Jew make a joke about the Holocaust. Because people being brutalized and having their freedoms taken away and being treated like cattle or animals is not fun. So that was my main issue with Bill Maher. And I think he thinks because he's progressive and he sleeps with black women that, he can say whatever he wants. Like, hey, I advocate for black people and I sleep with black women, so I should be able to say whatever I want, and that's to me is really problematic. Oh, and he smokes weed, exactly.
Oh yeah,
he smokes
dog. So yeah, he's cool. Yeah. No, it doesn't work that way. And I don't think you're ever cool enough to make a slavery joke. As far as Bernie Sanders, I think, with that rally in Portland. I thought that was a good thing because Bernie Sanders rolled out his plan to deal with police brutality and institutional racism literally the next day. And of course, his followers, the Bernie bros out there, they'll all say, oh, well, he had that in the works all the time and he hired Simone Sanders. Well, it didn't happen until the day after he got interrupted by those Black Lives Matter activists. So I thought that was not actually a bad thing, and I think it was good. I think it was good actually for Sanders himself. I thought that, and it actually, but by that happening to him, it actually pushed Hillary, so it became kind of a chain reaction. So I thought that was actually positive. The Democratic Party, they like to lose because they don't like new ideas. And I'm going to tell y'all something that I haven't told anybody. One of the things that I did, because like everybody, I was freaking out after Trump won the election. I looked at all the Democratic potential candidates and I said, who has the best chance of winning? And the person that I came up with was former HUD Secretary Julian Castro. Because people were all on this Elizabeth Warren kick or talking about Bernie Sanders again, and he's going to be, Methuselah by the time, 4 or 8 years come around.
White.
And, I thought Julian Castro was the guy. I emailed Julian Castro and I said, and he's not that busy right now. I emailed him and I said, look, However I can help,
Mm-hmm.
I can get a team of academics together from around the country who will help you.
Mm-hmm.
And we can, start working on this as soon as you're ready, because you need to be the next president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I never heard anything back, which is fine. But I think there's this, we do things our way. We have the same old people doing the same old things, and we're going to depend on the same old coalitions that you really, Hillary Clinton, depending on the Obama coalition when everyone knows she's not Obama. There was a whole different way to win that election, and she, people remember all the racist stuff she did in 2008 when Obama was running, and all the racist things that she said, and other things that have happened. They've just been really tone deaf, and they're talking about running her again.
Yes.
So
yes,
it's really problematic. I think we really need to start making some positive changes in different directions and listening to other people, just like universities need to listen to their students.
Mm-hmm.
Democrats need to start listening to their constituents.
Okay, so this is the last question, you guys, that we have for Professor Nichols.
I think as a community, I think our response should be, I'm assuming you mean to the state of politics,
right?
Because there are a lot of things I can list out, that I think our community needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
But with regard to the current state of politics, and I know there are people on the left that disagree with me, and they try to use the Trump election as proof, but
Mm-hmm.
I really believe we need to vote,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to vote locally.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of things going on in states that are actually in some ways worse than what's going on with the federal government under President Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe we really need to start moving forward, and organizing locally. And I think a lot of people are awake now, but we can't hear these voices that say, no, voting doesn't make a difference. Voting is just the start. It's certainly not the end all be all, but we certainly need to do that. Other things we need to do are to go back to grassroots organizing.
Thanks so much.
There were things that were very positive for us, for our people throughout the 20th century, and it came as a result of grassroots organization. Groups like SNCC, groups like the Black Panther Party. We do need more self-determination.
Mm-hmm.
We do need, with Betsy DeVos, we've got to start educating our own kids.
Yeah.
Not necessarily through homeschooling, but your kids come to my house and I tutor them after school.
Mm-hmm.
And next week it's your turn. We've got to start doing just the basic things, that we don't always look to the government to fix.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We used to do a lot of those things so much better. And I think the most basic thing that we have to do is form community. That's what a community does.
Yeah.
A community looks out for the children within the community. A community looks at pooling resources and tries to get, the guy that you trust to run for public office, if not running yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The community does those things. The community sometimes, if it, picks up the trash off the ground, whatever you have to do to better your community. And I think we need to do that. I mean, I've seen all these protests around the country, but what we need to do are sometimes the most basic things, and grassroots organization is the first step.
Mm-hmm. Someone commented, let me put this up here so you can see it.
And I also think and I dig that, Michelle, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, again, activists and grassroots organizations
Mhm.
and tutoring and things like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that the parents, if the parents aren't able to do it, that's when you or I, who are equipped to do that, or retired teachers or whatever. Like I can tell you, at the University of Maryland, we have a program called the Freedom Schools, where college students tutor kids from the local schools around. I think we need to do that.
Yep.
Get these college kids who are home playing Xbox on the weekends.
Right.
Look out for an hour a day. If you're an engineering student, you can help that 7th grade kid to do his math homework. If you are an English student, you can help that 8th grade kid write an essay.
Right.
These are things that I think that we can do as a community. And remember, when we talk about grassroots organization, the primary grassroots organization that people point to is SNCC. And we have to remember that SNCC were college students.
That's
I
right.
always tell my students that you will never have as little responsibility and as much time as you have on your hands right now. So use it to better your community. But I think that's a really good point. Not everybody is equipped to do those things. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope you could, hear me and I didn't sound like I was just rambling.
Whoops.
Absolutely. Anytime. Anytime you want me, I'm here.
So we wrote to.
Absolutely. I would have liked to have heard your voices. I wish we could have done it this way on Fox News, where I just kind of read the answers. With you guys, I would have liked to have seen and heard you.
Pretty sure they would have arrested us if they had us on Fox News. You'd be bailing us out.
No, this was a great experience, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And next time hopefully we'll get our tech right. All right, so I think
anytime, and shout out to my man Abdul Shahid.
Oh, go back there and wave. There he is.
Miss Jacqueline, I really thank you for having me. So you guys have an excellent evening.
Thank you.
And anytime you want me, I'll be here.
Right. We will take you up on that. All right. Thank you so much. All right. So you guys are still connected, and we're just going to keep this going for the next few minutes. So thank you all so much for joining us. We were really, really thankful to have Professor Nichols join us, and his insight into the whole Betsy DeVos thing was just great. And like I said, we are gonna post the video from the Bo Tucker Carlson interview. It was just so horribly disrespectful. And I didn't want to I didn't want to mess up this discussion and this time that we had with Professor Nichols with that piece of trash, because I really felt like Carlson was incredibly disrespectful to the man.
He's an idiot.
But yeah, I mean, Tucker Carlson is an idiot.
He's full of himself, and he comes from this. I mean, I hate to keep overusing the term, but he comes from this archaic viewpoint that from a certain narrative, and,
right?
And everyone has to fit into that narrative. So you kind of know where I'm going with that.
Right. And I do love you all. I did say bow tie, Tony, because you are the man with the nicknames. Tony gives the best. He's been doing the best nicknames for these crazy people who are.
I bet you the kid, when he was a little kid, but I know they hated him.
They were like, here comes that jerk Tucker. He was probably wearing a bow. A bow tie was probably a part of his You know, the little outfit they put you in when they bring you home from the, because you can tell I've never had a baby. So I don't even know what they put babies in when they bring them, other than they swaddle them in the little blanket.
How can somebody look at somebody and say, you tell I'm never had a baby?
I don't, because I don't know what they put babies in when they put them, when they take them home from the hospital, other than they swaddle them in the little towel or the blanket or whatever it is. They probably put a little bow tie on Tucker Carlson
No,
when he was a little infant. He looks like he's going to be a stuck-up, snobbish, nearly libertarian, crazy man bully. Let's make him annoying right now.
Right, but all he does is push the American mythos.
That's all it is.
That's all it is.
It's just this whole, I'm going to say that I don't understand your perspective because I don't agree with it, and I don't want to, and I don't want to understand it.
Because Professor Nichols and those who think like him are the bad Negroes. They can only understand people like David Clark, Sheriff David Clark.
Oh my God!
I mean, we have an article up on our page. If anyone had seen it, where it's a very good blog about the black haters of black people, and these are the people that Fox News and all of them, they have this stable, or is that right? The stable of these type of people that they just constantly feed their narrative, and they grow fatter and fatter, and then they only let them out when they need them to put down black people.
I'm sorry, I've just got this visual in my head now of like this stable with all these Uncle Ruckus type of black people.
Oh, and Aunt Rukina.
Uncle Ruckus and Aunt
there was a person.
Ruckusina.
Look, I don't even know if this chick is still on Facebook, but you have people like Michelle Connery. And
Diamond and Silk. Those two.
Now, again, I'm with Professor Nichols. I believe that of speech.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to tell anyone in this great republic of ours how they should speak and believe, but we know when we're being conned. And we're being conned when Fox News can only agree with people like Sheriff David Clark. Mm-hmm. And Sheriff David Clark would never say anything bad about white people.
No.
Because that's not his role. His role is to get on there and spew. He spews what white racists want to say.
Exactly.
They can't say it. And then they turn around and say, but David Clark said it and he's
so
black.
It can't be racist if David Clark says it.
I mean,
come
on, man.
And you have to remember that people like David Clark have to fulfill the position of the protectors of white supremacy because they've gotten their position from white supremacy being the prevailing order of the day. So they're filling their role to be the gatekeeper of white supremacy, right? They're keeping the rest of us on the reservation. They're fine being taking the role of the overseer, right? In the modern day plantation economy. They're fine with that because they wouldn't have the position that they have and the trappings that come with their position, the attention, the adulation from the conservative portion of America, being the mascots. I can't even say mouthpieces or the faces. No, they're mascots. They really are like mascots in a costume at halftime that are trotted out to entertain people. They're fine with their positions as the gatekeepers of white supremacy because they wouldn't have that position without white supremacy. White supremacy gives them permission to express their hatred toward black people who are poor, and it's their way of thanking white supremacy for the little bit of material wealth that they have that they also use as a way to differentiate themselves from the rest of us teeming masses of Negroes.
Well, David Clark is doing what the black middle class, especially the black political middle class, David Clark and those like him are, so, and I'm glad you put that there, but they're doing the same thing. That their role in this society, let me put it that way, is what the black political class, whether it's the black mayor of Baltimore or whether it's Bowser down here in D.C., and black mayors and black politicians, the Congressional Black Caucus, their job is to be a barrier between white supremacy and the masses. That's their job. And you're right, Tony. He is declaring Thomas law. But let me go a little bit more with this David Clark. David Clark is the demon child that was produced by the civil rights movement.
Oh, please explain that.
And the reason why I say that he's the demon child of the civil rights movement, because we got to understand something. Just a little brief history. No, this is not brick by brick, but you know.
But he's good at that.
No, but look. You know, prior to, you know, we used to always talk about, well, what happened to the black struggle? You know, what happened to the black revolution? It just seemed like it petered out. And we got to understand that, you know, when white folks was going around, some white people, let me clarify that, when the most vile of white people were going around lynching us and we were fighting all this oppression and stuff. And we got to understand that the civil rights movement was basically a Southern movement. And then in the North, you had the Nation of Islam. And you had, you know, but they both were fighting the same enemy. So here you had the civil rights movement, which was made up of mostly black middle class people who were basically not trying to change the system. They just wanted to be included in it. So it wasn't about overthrowing this present system, which is the only way black people can have equality in this country. This system has to go. So what happened is that they were just saying, well, if we just be respectable, if we just pray, if we can show white people that they have nothing to fear from us,
that we're not going to kill you.
Now, mind you, it wasn't black people lynching whites. It wasn't black people going around riding around in white sheets and burning crosses. It wasn't white people that were working in government institutions, denying people to vote and all this stuff. But yet, black middle class people felt that we had to prove to them that we were worthy enough for the rights that they just took for granted. So when I say that is that when they found out that white folks was like, I don't care, like in Chicago in the video, I don't care how much money N-word makes. He ain't living in my neighborhood. And so when they seen that kind of attitude, then it was like, well, we need to get with the masses. And so what happened, the masses was like, well, they always been treating us bad. They get together, and this is when you had this coalition between the Southern Civil Rights Movement and those in the North. And that's when Malcolm and Martin was getting closer together. So what happened is that the white power structure saw this, and they was like, you know what? After a few cities were burnt down and all this other kind of stuff, we need to release give some concessions. But the concessions benefited black middle class people. So what happened is that once they got their little crumbs from the Civil Rights Act and from affirmative action and all this other kind of stuff, when they found out that, yeah, we can be treated, because all they were asking for was to be treated like white people. So then what happened is that when they got their little piece of the pie, they said, deuces, masses. That's it. So what happened was the masses still have inferior schools, inferior housing, being more ghettoized, and gentrification. All this stuff is happening to the masses. And then when the black middle class got their little piece of pie, they was like, deuces, masses, we're moving to Prince George.
Move to PG County.
Yeah, we're moving here. We're going out to the suburbs. But they found out that it was so much farmland in America, all white people did was just move further and clear out more land and start building some more stuff. So my point being is the fact that David Clark and people like him, they are the children of that black middle class hatred of the masses. They were raised that way, and they were taught that you are not like those people. David Clark probably heard that ever since he was a kid. You are not like those people, because a lot of people in the black middle class still bought into the American mythos that if we just act a certain way, and basically what that is try to squeeze ourselves in the narrative of white supremacy, which is a falsification of who we are anyway, in their mindset. And so all of a sudden now, they are the gatekeepers, as you said, Jackie, from keeping the masses back and against actually burning down the country. So that's why they get put in power, but they don't do anything for us because their interests and the interests of the masses are not together.
Exactly. See, this
And
is.
see, I know when I talk like that, that's why we lose a few viewers.
I know, more people were like, "Oh my God, I can't take that."
Because they don't want to hear it. But this is coffee, current events, and politics. We have not lived a Jolly G existence in this country. We have not had a G Willikers existence in this country. So, as much as you would like for us to get over certain things, y'all need to get over certain things too, which means that we need to start dealing with the truth.
And see, you can't get over something if you refuse to admit that there's something to get over. And every time we try to have these conversations, we try, politely and all this kind of stuff. Oh, time to go. I can't. This is too deep for me. I can't deal with. Oh my God, is that my child calling me outside? We never want to have the uncomfortable conversation. And the thing is, we've been giving America the benefit of the doubt since we've been here. And the whole benefit of the doubt is one day y'all gonna do right by us. And it's been 400 years now, and with every iteration of a different administration, there's a new kind of way to say the same thing. Not yet, not now. Wait, well, at least you're not being lynched from trees. Well, at least you're not slaves. Things are better, because that's what they mean. That's what people mean when they say crap like, look, things are better. Things are better than what?
I mean, we tase you now. We don't.
Yeah, we tase you. We don't actually string you up and drag you down the dirt road in the middle of the night. Nobody's doing that to you now. I mean, so it's and that's why I was so glad that Professor Nichols expressed what I expressed earlier about people missing the point about what Bill Maher said. It wasn't that he used the word nigger. I don't care. It's not. That's not the issue. It is the historical context that he had the nerve to believe he could put himself in. And the reason he did it was for some laughs, to score some political points. But in the same conversation, he's agreeing with the Republican senator who wrote a book saying that this generation of Americans, this generation of millennials, are a bunch of whiny, spoiled ass kids who basically need to go and toughen up and go work in the fields so that they could learn how to be adults. And he agrees with this man because you group of millennials, like I said Thursday night over in Brick by Brick, you are the frogs who realized the pot of water was boiling in this country, and you hopped the hell out. You were like, I'm not taking this. I'm not going to settle for this government and these people in power taking all my stuff. So we're gonna fight. This guy, this young Republican senator wrote this book saying that y'all millennials are a bunch of spoiled, whiny children, and Bill Maher sat there and agreed with him. And in the context of him agreeing with this guy who said that Americans don't know how to be adults because we have the nerve to want to stand up for our our equal, our just deserts, our rights, and our futures. The Republican senator says, well, some of these kids need to come and work out in the fields with me. And Bill Maher, thinking he can capitalize on the fact that he smokes weed and dates black chicks.
And got his honorary black, he's honorary brother.
Yeah, he got his honorary, brother card, black card from some black folks that invited him to a black cookout. He thinks he can make a joke
black
about slavery.
Folks. Yeah, black rich folks. That's what it was.
Right, to score political points and to get some laughs. That is the offense. It wasn't that he used the N-word. That wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, I agree with Professor Nichols. I don't like that anybody uses it.
Well, first of all, I go with what James Baldwin said. Is first of all, why do you need an N-word? So I know I'm a man. You're a woman.
Right.
I'm not an N-word. So the thing of it is that James Baldwin asked the question, why do you need
it? And for you to understand the context of that, we implore you to watch I'm Not Your Negro. It is on Netflix, and it is the visualization of what James Baldwin's might have been, was supposed to
right.
be. And it was basically James Baldwin trying to explain America from the perspective of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. and Medgar Evers. Medgar Evers, who so many of us who think we know the history of civil rights in this country don't know a whole lot about. And that's a shame, because Medgar Evers' life was taken in the struggle for equality and justice for Black people too. But all we ever talk about is Martin Luther King Jr. because he was respectable. And I'm not disrespecting Martin Luther King Jr., but let's be real. The only reason white people ever bring up Martin Luther King Jr. in a conversation about racism and justice and injustice in America is when they are trying to remind us that Martin Luther King Jr. was a polite, respectable Negro, and they liked the way he talked to them. Never mind that Martin Luther King Jr. did all of the things that they tell us not to do now. Don't block the streets. Yeah, MLK did that. Y'all protest too much. MLK did that. You can't make it about me. You can't make it about the government, telling the government that it's their responsibility. Martin Luther King Jr. actually said that it is the government's responsibility to address racial justice in this country. And it is not only the state, local, and federal government's responsibility, but it is the responsibility of white Americans to determine how far we progress as far as race relations go in this country. That was Martin Luther King Jr. White people never mention that. And they never talk about Malcolm X because they swear to God that Malcolm X hated white people. And he didn't. Malcolm X advocated self-defense. He advocated,
which for Black people is nothing that's never applauded. James Baldwin said, and many of you have seen this clips of him saying this. But he made, and I have to repeat this because we're still living within the same narrative, whether it's Black Lives Matter or anything else. When we are still being gunned down by the police unjustly, and I'm saying unjustly when and we know the different situations. But anyway. When James Baldwin said that, look, if I was a Pole, if I was Israeli, if I was German, or if I was any white person, if I had what he said, a point of reference.
Right.
And see, that's the thing. Negro is not a point of reference. The fact that Negro means nothing.
Right.
And, and so he said, if I had a point of reference, my heroes would be your heroes. So, that Turner, he would be one of your heroes instead of a slave. Malcolm X would probably still be alive, So, but every time when the white man picks up a gun and says, "Give me liberty, give me death," the whole white world applauds.
Right.
But when a Black man says exactly the same thing, word by word, then he is viewed as a criminal.
Right.
Then everything has to be done in order to deal with this bad N-word, so that another one won't rise up like him.
That's right.
That struck me so much that I think I got that quote almost word for word. But but the thing of it is, we're still dealing with this today, even in 2017, even with Ferguson. Every time there's Black dissent, the first thing comes up, and let's go back to what the role of the Black middle class is the first thing they do is go to them and say, tell those masses to be peaceful.
Yep.
So the masses is the one that's getting the pain. The masses are the ones that's receiving the oppression. But then when they decide enough is enough, then here comes the so-called Black leaders who are all part of the Black middle class coming out there telling the Black masses, "Oh, I understand that that they coming down hard on y'all, but we need to be peaceful." And then they got their white liberal allies coming along with them saying again, well, if you want people to listen to you and if you want respect for your grievances, the only one that's hearing that message are the Black masses.
Yep.
No one else is hearing that message.
Yep.
So the thing of it is that, like Dr. Nichols said, people are starting to wake up, including those in the Fergusons and the Baltimores and stuff. It's gotten to the point that we've dealt with this so long that what the white establishment has to say about it anymore doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's what Black Lives Matter is saying. Black Lives Matter is saying, we did it your way. We went to school. We know our college students did the sit-ins and had milkshakes poured on them and spat upon and ketchup and beaten. We had our teenagers integrating schools where they were harassed and spit upon and all this other kind of stuff. We did all of these things. We didn't block traffic. We talked about practicing the principles of Gandhi and,
right.
and that love should be our weapon. Only what? To have our leaders murdered and to be here in 2017 fighting for the same thing.
Still fighting for the same thing. Still fighting.
That is my
for the
commentary,
same
and
thing.
I think we need to end it there.
I think you are right. I think we do need to end it here because we could go on for hours about this because look, this has been our reality since we've been here. We've been fighting this fight literally since we have been in this country. I would like to direct you to our Coffee Current Events and Politics page. Look out for some more pictures and video from my trip to the Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture.
And look out for the live feeds because you're going to Chicago. You're going to Chicago.
I'm going to Chicago. So I'm going to be going to the People's Summit. I'm going to be going to the People's Summit Friday, this coming Friday. Summit. I do not know what I am going to be live streaming. I don't know who I'm going to be talking to, but I am definitely going to go there and get as much information to give us some kind of idea of what our path forward as progressives, as leftists, whatever we want to call ourselves, should be. But grassroots organizing must be a part of that, plan and platform. There was something else I wanted to say, but it's
Let's make it quick.
gone. I can't remember.
I got stuff to do.
I know you got stuff to do, and I can't remember what else that something else was. But anyway, there will be no Brick by Brick this week because we're transitioning to the beginning of another series. Like I said last Thursday, I'm going to start a new series on the colonization of Africa, and you will be seeing more of Dr. Nichols because he's going to be helping me out with some commentary on some stuff and checking my facts because he's the professor of African American Studies, so he can help me with some stuff. And you'll definitely be seeing more of him and some other people here on Coffee Current Events and Politics and Lukman Nation. So
they used to say, what was that show? Was it Hill Street Blues or something?
Oh, was it Be Safe Out there?
Yeah, or Let's Go Do Some Good or something like that.
I don't think that was Hill Street.
Oh, was it Hill Street Blues?
No.
Somebody said Let's Go Do Some Good.
Maybe. Was that Hill Street Blues, guys? I remember Be Safe Out there from Hill Street Blues.
Yeah,
what was that? What was the show?
Some cop show.
Yeah, let's go do some good.
Yeah,
who remembers what that was?
I don't know.
Okay, you guys aren't any help today. So thank y'all so much for those of you who joined us. Share this video, like our page. Remember, no Brick by Brick this week, but absolutely go over there, check out the neoliberalism series and the Standing Rock
no
series.
Coffee Current Events because you
share them. Probably not a live in Lukman Nation next Sunday, unless I get really adventurous and try to overextend myself, but we'll see. We hope you enjoyed this interview with Dr. Jason Nichols from the University of Maryland, and we hope to bring you a lot more like it in the future. Thanks, you guys, for joining us today. Have a great week. Peace. Excuse me.